Hello and welcome to today's episode of Westfox. We're talking some more Star Trek Picard. I know we've been hitting on a lot lately, but there's a lot to talk about in the show. It's all wrapped up, so now we get to talk about some of the overall problems with the script, good things, bad things, where we see the struggle of the show in general. And we wanted to kind of highlight this in battle today, and kind of talk about why I specifically, both of us, but a lot of problems with it. And just to kind of start it off, so I posted this little shot, this little graphic here. Here we go, pull this up. This is a graphic here on Twitter here. And it got a decent amount of traction. It was kind of hilarious. A lot of people had thoughts on it. And so, and I wanted to address some of the thoughts, because I think some are relatively valid to the story. A lot of people's thoughts towards it were, if I say most people's reason for disagreeing with it would be that the Federation would not attack. So essentially, on one of these ships is Commander O. Then over here we have, onto the right of the screen with the ships is the Federation, and we have Picard, or Riker and Picard and all the Federation. So we have about 200 ships on the left for sure, and an unknown number on the right. Though visually we're looking in the same general vicinity of ships. And so the biggest critique of my critique was, in the past they've let spies go, or they wouldn't want to let a bloodbath happen because of a battle, or there's no provocation for an act of war, or something of that nature. I think the biggest one is generally been it wasn't strategically sound. Now granted, there is some truth to that. There is definitely some truth that a 200 ship battle to 200 ship battle is definitely going to have some level of casualties. So the value comes to, is the sacrifice of life worth it? In this case, I personally say yes, due to the fact that Commander O has such high access to what she was. She wasn't just a spy. Because I think a lot of people are not delineating enough that she is more than just a spy, because they reference the Deep Space Nine episode, and I think there's some other episodes in Star Trek canon and episodes of these shows where they might have turned a blind eye to a character or allowed something to happen. Specifically, I think Deep Space Nine is the largest candidate due to people like the Cardassian gentleman on there. I forget his name. I think it starts with S. I could be
Ghoul.
No, there's another. He's the one that he does all the. He acts like a tailor. He's a tailor, but I think it's a joke of the Tinker Tailor Dr. Spy kind of thing.
Spy, yeah, that's exact. Yeah.
I think he's what he's supposed to be, and he does some shady stuff, and he's allowed to do it, and so other things happen throughout the show. The difference in this case, in my opinion, and part of this is fact and some of the opinion, is the factual part is the difference is Commander O was a high-level Starfleet officer at the highest levels, working directly below admirals, and she was the head of security. So it wasn't like she was even just involved on a specific mission. She oversaw every element of Starfleet security, from, who knows how many levels of stuff, from ship design to ship security, ship codes, how codes are created.
Basic security protocols. Just
everything.
Or she could have even built some of the security protocols.
She could have built them all. Now, granted, the only thing I would, and to play devil's advocate, the only thing I would say is that since her intention wasn't the downfall of the Federation in this case, her intention is the destruction and stopping of synthetics, that her intent at this moment is non-malicious towards us, and that's giving a lot of leeway in there. Granted, she did kill over 100,000 people directly. From what the show says, she directly programmed and put the bug into all the synthetics that had them murder all the people on Mars, or all the people that they were involved in Mars, and whoever didn't escape in all the ships. So she was directly involved in that, which is definitely an act of war. In the scene here, they're inside a Federation space, another act of war in this kind of case. So the provocation.
Can I interject?
Yes, definitely.
I'd say almost to play that devil's advocate to your devil's advocate. Although, because like this is fun, because this way we can kind of break down what people have said and kind of push it back both ways. But I would say that my response to that would be, like you said, that's giving a lot of leeway. But even if She wasn't really trying to go for anything that give the downfall of the Federation. Obviously, there's still proprietary information stuff that she would know. That brings into what we're going to go a lot into here is this battle sequence. If as we spoke about in the last video, if you haven't seen that video, go back and please watch it. We discussed how it seems very odd that Commodore O would first off say, our great journey is about to be finished. And then they're able to turn tail and walk away after they perceive that this might be kind of a bad fight and, and the threat has gone away. If I was her in that situation, though, whether or not I was originally had the intent of using any of that proprietary information to hurt the Federation, I would use it at this moment to negate them, to get to the planet and still eliminate the threat that I felt is an extinction level threat for all organics. So that's where I'd have the background of saying, when you're put up against the wall and you have a secret code that that I'm going to use like something like Khan, I would assume that then she would know for all these new fleets of ships that Riker brings in, she probably knows the security protocols again. She probably knows the shield lock, like turn-off codes and certain things like that, or at least ways to maybe possibly get past them. If it's the newest ship in the fleet, I'm pretty sure the head of security knew a lot about that new ship, so she would be able to use that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she would have been able to use that as some point of advantage. Whether or not she can even take down the shields, she would know where to fire. She would know to say, Romulan ships, I want, every ship go attack this point on there. So whether or not she originally had malicious intent, it's not being malicious at this sense because she's thinking she's protecting all the universe, and I see that she would use that information to get past the Federation because she still thinks she's doing holy work, in short.
Yeah. Well, and essentially the characters that she's been leading have been willing to kill themselves to accomplish their goal. So the idea that some ships would not have just nosedive into the planet, tried to break the blockade, done anything, like I said, the threat isn't really gone. The end of this episode doesn't actually remove the threat. The threat is still a very real threat to the Federation and everyone in the galaxy. So the idea that, they just go, oh, okay, cool. She said
diplomacy could still fail in 2 days.
Yeah.
2 days after this, or just the next day, or, you don't know because obviously they try to make it in the end that, I can't remember her name, but Golden Soji, was the only one that really wanted to start a problem. But at that same point,
she seemed like the only one.
Was she the only one?
Well, and his other Soji was pretty fast to turn too.
Exactly. So it's like, how easy would it be for someone else to still go back and turn on that beacon and then create a big problem?
Correct. So in the story, there's two different problems with this story when it comes to like the battle part. There's a lot of problems in the story, but in the sense of it. So there's the in-universe problem, and then there's the writing problem. So in-universe, these aliens create essentially a beacon, supposedly, that gives, if a synthetic life form connects to it, a message that says, signal us and we'll come destroy everyone who overlords you, essentially. So the Romulans find it early, and then they think it means destroy all synthetics. So the thing is, the irony of it is, if they just destroyed the beacon actually would have, it'd be over. Because then that'd be, how many beacons are out there in the galaxy, we don't know. Is there more than one beacon? That kind of stuff. Because, the galaxy is a big place, so if there's only one beacon, who knows who finds it and when. But the idea is you'd pretty much destroy it. So this omnipotent, slight, out of time race of robots, again, their plan is actually really bad if you think about it, because the idea, because in the end, their plan kind of wrecks it. If their plan had been just, this is a cool thing, but if it doesn't react to normal life, or it doesn't tell them a death message. So, because the problem is that it tells them a death message and it freaks out organic life and sends them on suicide missions and killing people. So that whole part there is kind of nonsensical in the sense of when you actually think about like what the intent is. Because again, there's what happens in the story, but then you go to intent and you're like, what's this character's intent? So, but then jumping all the way up to this battle here. So just logistically, so again, we're talking about kind of, why didn't they why didn't they stop her? They should have. Granted, there's two giant fleets and people might die. And so, okay, we don't want people to die. The problem too is, and this is where it goes in the writing side of it, I think they made a mistake, is they brought in too many Federation ships. Because the problem is they brought too many Federation ships at the same time. The Romulan fleet, now granted, I made this argument that, it's bizarre. I don't think all the Romulan ships arriving at the same moment makes sense either, because I believe some ships are faster than other ships. And unless they're the exact same ship with the exact same speed, if they're all going at max warp speed towards this planet to destroy it, because it's literally the end of the universe, or the end of all sentient life in the galaxy, they're probably pushing their engines as far as they go, and some ships might be a little faster. Now, granted, we know that all these ships left from the same location, so them arriving around the same time makes a bit more sense. The Federation ships, however, arriving at the same time makes no sense, because unless they all met up at Earth or whatever location and then warped into this, that's not what happened. And in fact, I don't know who even told them where they were. I think it must have been at the end there. So it was pretty recent, because before they thought they were actually going to Starbase 12, or no, Deep Space 12 or something. Mm-hmm. They thought they were going to a Deep Space thing, and they were going to rendezvous there. And so the other Admiral Clancy was going to send a fleet out there. That's a big fleet, first of all. So they didn't. I don't know if they knew there was
a massive fleet.
Yeah, so I don't know if they knew that there would be that many Romulans coming at that point. I have to look at the episode, but they all arrived.
Canon. Well, I would just say just within canon. I mean, I don't even think they sent that many ships to Wolf 359 or the engagement and First Contact for the Borg Cube. I don't think we've ever seen a fleet of 219 ships or 200. Well, we don't know. I don't know how many they have, but I'm assuming it's around 200. I assume they pretty much made it.
It's a big number of
ships.
Yeah, it's a big number. It looks like it visually. Obviously, this doesn't show. I mean,
it looks like they're pretty much equal when you go in the outside view. It almost looks like it's a mirror image of ship to ship. Maybe almost actually sometimes it almost looks like there's more Federation ships than there is Romulan. Almost depending on which shot you do. Like this shot here, it almost looks like there might actually be more Federation ships because you kind of see like the little corner.
There we go. Let me go back to there.
So, but yeah, that was just one thing to me too. It's like that is a massive fleet.
Yeah, it's there we go. Let me try to.
I think there's actually more Federation ships they're almost trying to show.
I mean,
I look at it.
There's a lot of ships there, and so the problem is all these ships arrive within seconds of each other, and the problem is, and they all came from the same direction. So one of my critiques, in the general sense, is I think that the argument that they would be worried about losing to casualties of trying to reclaim Commodore O would be the fact that they were less ships, right? I think that the Federation here is, with the quick response, is not strong. There's too many ships here for the Federation. I think that, and they should have been staggering in because, staggering in. They should be staggering in, coming in slowly because they're all coming from different locations. And again, I think this show has kind of a Star Wars problem too, where you literally have a similar shot in the Rise of Skywalker, where you have these two fleets coming across to each other, and the same thing in that show is they all appear at the same thing, and I believe in the novelization they're saying there's 100,000 ships or something along that nature. So you have these 100,000, so you have 100,000, let's say even 10,000 ships all arriving at the same time, and so I think that's a problem because. Or in that show, sorry. But in here, you're having the same thing where, and again, I think in Wrath of Khan, one of the things that I liked at that one is when they're trying to strategically figure out how to beat Khan, is Spock's like, he seems to think very two-dimensionally. And so they essentially start using space to its fullest, up, down, and left, right. And you can see here, it kind of reminds me of an old Revolutionary War standoff where these two ships are across from each other. Why are they surrounded? So you're telling me at this planet, every single Federation ship came from the exact same direction. And it's like, no, there'd be ships coming from all different directions from inside the Federation coming at them. Well, they'd be all coming at slightly different times. Go ahead.
Like I was saying, even if you're going to say from a tactical point, if you're then showing up afterward, wouldn't you want to come in and encircle the
completely
the surrounding army? I mean, like you said, they're not thinking third dimensionally, but it's like in three dimensions in space, I could easily already come from behind you, coming from warp. So I should have just encircled you, especially if I have a massive fleet. And this is, and then I was going to say even before that, I think, like you said, there's a big problem that they made They didn't want to have this conflict, but then they made Starfleet come in like to the nines on power level, on amount of ships, and like is. Well, what I was going to say, because they wanted this shot, and then because I know it was what we talked about last video, and I've seen it some more, and I think more and more people are saying the same thing. That's like, that is the same ship. They're all the same ship. So if that really is the case, then every single one of those 200 massive Starfleet ships then is the best, newest ship of the fleet.
Right.
So that would be like having, and again, this was what I go, man. That would be like, if you want to make that that comparison, then viewers, let me remind you that the Sovereign class, the Enterprise E, was made for the Dominion War, and then fighting the Borg, and that was the most, that was the most technological ship of its time frame, and they didn't even have 200 of those. What I mean? Every time they've had a flagship, I mean, like, think about the original Constitution class. If you're talking about the NC, 1701 behind me, there was 13? I think Dad might remember that one. Dad, comment on there and let me know. But I think there was 13 originally for the Constitution class. I think it was because it was kind of based off of like the original 13 colonies at the time frame.
Oh, okay.
That's why they did it. I think that's kind of why they did it. But it's like there's never been a massive fleet of the flagship. Although, admittedly, they didn't do well here, but I would say it's kind of nice to actually see that they actually made 200 of the best ship in the fleet instead of going like, well, we got 3.
Logistically. Right.
Because it's not like making aircraft carriers where like, I don't need 500 aircraft carriers. You're like, yeah, but this is like having the best battleship submarine, thing that does everything and fires, quantum torpedoes. So if you can have 200 of them, I don't see why you wouldn't. So I think that's a really big problem, that they didn't want to go back. They let the Starfleet come in too strong. I mean, they gave them like the ace up their sleeve, pretty much, them coming back, but then they don't want to use it.
Yeah, I mean, and this is kind of where I'm showing here on this graphic here on the screen, drawing in some Photoshop. So we have about 218 ships on the left with the Romulans, and then we have, I think that the initial push should have been 1 to 10 ships. I think that you're right. It's too bad we didn't have a moment of essentially Picard's, the Enterprise E or F or something of that nature, warping in right between the ships, because we have their ship right there in the front and blocking them. Because again, even after this thing starts, they don't pull back, because they should have, because they're an easy target, essentially the ones running this stuff. But right. I think that having 10, an entry of 10 ships, and then slowly adding up, and then you can start adding those numbers up until you get some more ships. And I think that
would have helped too. We spoke about this off there, and I was sending over to Fox that I said, I was like, you know what, audience, viewers, let me know what you think on it too. I said, I think it would have been a cool idea. And I think I've actually seen this in a lot of people too, wish they would have seen the Enterprise come in for this last scene, whatever Enterprise you're going to get on there. But I was telling Fox, I said, how great would have a scene would have been, a close shot, kind of, Picard looking out from the La Sirena, and then you just see, warp signature kind of come in, and just the nacelles in a little bit, and this little flash, and all you see is NCC 1701, and you go, Picard go, is that? And then I said either having Captain, Worf maybe as captain, because I've heard that might be what's actually in the universe, or if it was Riker in that ship, him hailing the Romulans saying, this is the Enterprise, stand down immediately, kind of thing, and then getting to have a good moment. And then when Picard goes like, how'd you guys get here so fast? You want to have a good homage to Star Trek, you give the perfect answer, we were the closest ship. We were the closest ship in the quadrant, which closest is always the Enterprise's. We were the closest ship.
Yep.
Which is always the Enterprise answer, and you could have had that great moment where Picard kind of gives a little head toss, kind of to Kirk, and goes, of course we were. And then, like I said, then you'd have that first moment of that, and then you get to see the Enterprise. But then again, what also kind of kills me about is then when Riker does show up, how they have the scene, you never then get to see which ship is Riker's ship.
Yeah, you never get...
so you don't actually see what the flagship is, really. I mean, it's like, now we know that's all the same ship, pretty much, that you're seeing here, but it's like, it's a bummer that then they don't give a good way of showing his ship, which also would have, from a theatrical standpoint, it would have felt better, I guess, if you're knowing which ship maybe you're thinking someone you care about is on, if there's fire coming at it, if there's phaser fire or the rest of it. And instead it's like, I don't even know which ship's Riker's. So even if there was a fight or there was something lasers to come on there, it's not like I'm going to be sitting there going, oh no, I'm kind of worried because I'm not sure who's who. It's like, it'd be like having a massive battle in Lord of the Rings, but then you never give an establishing shot of where Aragorn, Legolas are. So then the whole time you're just sitting there watching waves of people fighting, and you're going, am I supposed to? Where's the characters I care about? Where's my leads that I want to watch for it? Because now I'm just lost in the minutia.
Right. No, totally. And I think that's pulling up the Enterprise E here. So some renders here of what this ship looks like and how I said the smoother levels.
That come in and just that top just show up halfway through the view screen. And like I said, you just see NCC 1701 and Picard just kind of give a little, wait a minute, is that? Oh, please, anyone, viewers, if you have watched the episode, what do you think? I really do want to hear. Did you guys really wish you could have seen the Enterprise? Do you feel like that would have been just some good kudos to it? You know, or what would you guys wanted to see? Do you wish there would have had a battle? You know, we're gonna keep talking, but just curious for you guys. If you want to comment, please let us know.
And to be honest, I'm okay that there wasn't a battle. Like, I don't need a battle for this one.
I don't need a battle for the sake of a battle, but this one felt like there should have at least been some kind of.
It's the repercussions of the story. He said the motivations of the characters don't add up. Again, the Romulan Commander this was her life mission. She saw the vision that drew people mad, that killed. I mean, remember, this wasn't just like, oh, they were told orders. Literally, this character was like, yeah, people killed themselves, and we saw the repercussions of what happening, of touching and seeing this like message from this race was. So to think that she would just be like, oh, okay, cool, no, we're good. And also the pacing of it, obviously, because I mean they're there so early. You're telling me that those 10 they had 200 ships. Again, they could have circled this planet. The Romulans had enough ships to encircle this planet and wipe it out. Even if they started shooting lasers, phasers, whatever weapon they have, torpedoes, plasma torpedoes, or disruptors. Sorry, not phasers, disruptors. They started shooting disruptors down at the planet randomly. More than likely, due to the accuracy of the technology there, they would start doing some damage there. And even if, like I said, it was scatter shot or to send a couple ships down. Granted, the other thing too I don't understand is, do they not have cloaking devices anymore? Because I could only imagine this fleet of 200 ships, even if they're disabled here, even let's say they couldn't do it in warp or whatever, even though in canon they can, in those situations, why were they not to these 200 ships in cloak? Could you imagine the terrification of that? I mean, there's scenes, I think in TNG, or maybe it's D69, where a ship literally
both,
but they'll have a Romulan bird of prey, like two other ones decloak after dealing with the first one, and these are massive ships. They dwarf this Enterprise E here that I have on the screen, which is itself almost, I think it's 1,200 meters long. I think it is 1,200, something like that.
I think you're correct.
And which is, that's a huge ship, and they dwarf this ship. Relatively they dwarf it, compared to what it is. Mm-hmm. They're not in the same playing field. Granted, they'd fight each other, but they have, I would say, the advantage, at least the base level advantage on it. Maybe not strategy or technology wise, but definitely scale size. Again, they do have cloaking devices, which makes them quite a threat. But
yeah, I don't know why they didn't. I mean, because we didn't see cloaking.
The only cloaking thing we saw was
no, because we know cloaking is still available because Narek's ship had it.
Yep.
So it's still something that they use, but yeah, like you said, this would have been or just even in simple, you had 209 ships or whatever, or 219, 18. So why weren't 200 of them showing up and 18 of them cloaked?
Yeah, right. Could you imagine? Like I said, I don't care if they're scanning for the tachyons
or even in the battle.
Stuff.
I'm like, even when the battles, like even if when the Federation showed up, just kind of go like, just cloak 18 of them real fast. Just like any vote, try a few of you cloak real fast. I mean, is the Federation gonna, like, what are they gonna say? Okay, two of them cloaked. What are they gonna do?
Again, how did they not see the Federation ships coming in? Like, we knew that the Federation ships were coming 2 days ahead of time. We knew the Federation ships were coming, the Romulan ships were coming 2 days before we had them in long-range scanners. How do they not see where the Federation ships are coming from?
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that till
and
just
then-
now. Like, why didn't they scan for that? Why did we not know the Federation ships were only, they kind of knew, but they didn't really say, oh, they're, we're talking like, oh, this is 18 minutes away. They should be like,
Well,
oh,
I also
we got
have-
4 minutes.
That brings up a question too, because was it 2 episodes before? Was it when they were on Nepenthe on Riker's planet? Is that when finally they knew that Commodore O? No, it was the episode afterward.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I think is when they finally knew that she was summoned, and that's when they told Starfleet. So even with that being said,
I don't know if they ever told her that she was a traitor.
Commodore O. Well, see, that's where I'm like, they didn't really. I mean, because I thought they said, well, they told them, but like you said, Starfleet never even kind of like the admiral didn't even bat an eye. Like she was like, I'll give you your ships, Picard. Okay, being all grumpy about it, but he like tells her like, I think Commodore O is a bad actor.
Yeah,
and,
they didn't
and
know
there was
that at that
nothing
point.
ever said about it.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. My thing, where like they just let her go, and she should not have been like allowed to go. Like I said, regardless of, especially with
I'm
this
just
as a
saying though,
superior
too,
force.
then that means that Commodore O might have been aware of. She might not know they were then showing up to this planet in the end, because at that point she might have severed connections. But before that, she was still aware that I thought there was a fleet out there that was going to deep space 12. Then I would assume she still was aware of that information before that, because
The
I
tricky
think that
thing
was
is-
before.
The tricky thing I can't say is because she was at the. I think it was a couple episodes before they showed her at the location, like at the cube
Right.
or something like that in her Romulan outfit. So I don't know if that's when she cut ties at that point. Again, I don't know if she was on sick leave.
It would
She's
seem
like, "How
weird
am I
if you did. See, and that, like, I mean that I know this is going past the battle, but just the general problem with it. But it's like you said, then why would she, if she didn't know that her cover had been blown, why would she then, even if she was doing this mission, why would she break ties with Starfleet at that point? Because that would still be suspicious. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I again, motivation wise, like I said, she was so dead set on accomplishing this mission, but the moment that Soji essentially
There's
says
a Band-Aid on the situation. She's good to
everything's
go
great.
home.
Yes, they leave.
Yeah.
Like you said, they've killed countless. They said she's killed directly at least 100,000 people, and indirectly through killing those people, she's killed at least 100 million plus, maybe even more Romulans. Up to, I don't know how many died on the planet. I can't believe the numbers when they're like a billion or something like that. I still don't get that because the whole population was that. I'm like, wait, no one got off that planet. So I'm still confused by the numbers.
We
still know she killed a lot.
I mean, I
lot
know
of
this
lives
is
were lost.
being. Oh yeah. Well, I was gonna say though, just to be kind of make a little snarky comment, but then technically, the guy who shows up to confront her, his son died because of her actions. Riker's son
True.
died because of the
Good point.
ban. That was then because of her. You would almost wonder that there'd be kind of a little bit like, it was your actions that set us into this, that made me lose my son. Yeah, that's a lot of connections of law through association. But at the same time, if you found the person who set this stuff into motion and that caused your child to be killed or a loved one, I'm pretty sure if you ever saw him, you'd want to punch him. Like,
Right.
it'd be
That's a good point.
I mean, it'd be like someone being able to find Hitler. Like,
well, and again,
you might not
and,
have been the one who put, done stuff, but it's like, you were the one who initiated this crap. If I found you, I'd punch Hitler.
true. Well, and here's the thing.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and here's the again, we're just trying to dissect. Like I said, we're just doing a quick breakdown dissection. And the other area too, if you think about it, is how did she get away with so much for so long? Because again, that's where she is. So the synthetics have a bug, kill 100,000 people, destroy a whole fleet of ships, burn Mars. It's at the center of the Federation, right? I mean, Earth in Federation is it'd be like burning the closest, again, there's in cities and planets, but it'd be like burning down half of Washington D.C. type thing, right? You're talking the same galaxy or same solar system, so you're able to attack the solar system, and no one investigated. They didn't find a single bit of code going, oh yeah, someone programmed this, because again, the whole point of this, and it's also why the whole synthetic part of the show is also really tricky, because, well, if the synthetics can just put a bug into the synthetics, are they even synthetics? Because the idea that data is independent, and even the Borg couldn't reprogram them. So that's why data was unique. So these synthetics, a person can just essentially hack them to murder people, and they don't have any consciousness on their own. So were they even really synthetics, other than the fact that they were? That's why there's so many layers of this stuff that you're like,
or you can go even further and go. So you're telling me then that a whole race of beings who wanted to stay away from anything synthetic because of this fear then was easily able to then rewrite programming into synthetics to create a mass thing like that. Like, so it's kind of like if you've never looked into nuclear fusion, or something like that, but then you want to blow up one, or trying to like make one go into a super reaction, then it's like, oh, but now I know what to do. Okay. It might take some time for you to understand that, or like you said, at that point, then if you're able to hack them, what's the issue? What's the issue, Romulans? Like, can't you just hack then any synthetic being? You're able to do them and made a mass thing out of it. I don't even see why you guys have a fear of them at that point. You guys are able to master them. Like you said, if they're basing some of these synthetics off of, the data's model, then you're saying, so you were able to do something that the Borg couldn't do.
Yeah, that's true.
By breach their programming. So I don't see why you guys are even scared of synthetics.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly. Sorry, I'm just writing some notes.
It's really sad, viewers, because the more and more you think about this show, you start going, oh, let me pull that little thread. Oh, there goes the tapestry. Oh goodness, tapestries. I came here to see the tapestries.
It's funny. No, that's the problem is that when you don't know the rules of the space, like I said, when you're writing it the first time, you can say, oh, the Borg can't do it. But again, that is this trick when you're like, wait a second. So the synthetics are far inferior to Data if they're able to be reprogrammed relatively easily. And again, it's like, no one investigated this. No, like the only investigation was what we got from Raffi, possibly. But you're like, so she's the only person that was investigating this? Only person in the whole thing that was like investigating all this stuff. So it does get, the hard part of it does get really confusing because you're like,
well, especially too then because I'm assuming to play devil's advocate, but someone would probably come back as like, well, Commodore O, being the head of security, was able to compartmentalize any information. If she saw people looking into it, she was able to stop something. Again, though, then I would respond back to that is, someone would see that missing information. Someone else.
Well,
you can't.
It also goes into.
It's always that like in Star Trek does this all the time, where it's like, well, there's something there's something missing from the data, kind of thing. So it's like if you were to still mess with it, there's always that cookie crumb. There's always that breadcrumbs back to whatever is actually going on. So for them to. Like I said, it wouldn't. Like you said, someone else would have been aware of what was going on, even if then Commodore O was trying to pull strings from behind, because it didn't. Like you said, they're only showing Commodore O and Rizzo being a part of Starfleet as the Zhat Vash. So it doesn't look like there's an infrastructure in there to have a secret cabal that's being able to hide this information easily. I mean, there could be, like you said, maybe that's what season 2 is about, is finding out, who's still left in there.
Oh,
and what else is going on.
I hope not. I mean, as much as I critique this, I don't want to see that storyline. I honestly, the Cloak and Dagger storylines to me are some of the worst. I think in general, because the shows it's overused nowadays. I think the best one is one of the creepiest episodes of TNG, which is when a lot of the commanders are being taken over by like that little crab-looking creature.
Oh.
I forget what episode it is, but when a bunch of the Federation is taken over by essentially an alien race, and they're being possessed by them. Like, that was a creepy episode. I think it was a 2-parter with some previous episodes that tied into it, but it was a 2 or 3-parter, and it was a freaking creepy ending. Let me tell you, that was like on the caliber of like Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark type creepiness at the end there. But that's the thing is, I don't want to see that. Like, as they said, the Cloak and Dagger, because the problem with that is always. Oh, there's a double cross. Somebody's lying about this, and just boring. It starts falling into like the 24 problem, where it's like every single time that the anti-terrorist unit always has had a leak or always had a mole, and you're like, okay, it's season 7, and you guys still have another leak. Can we find a different person? Can we find a different way to have this? Because this is ridiculous. Every person they hire, one
guy.
Every time they hire, every time there's at least one mullet they hire, and you're like, we need to get better at hiring
like
HR.
stop, come on, like, and I love 24, but it's like, yeah, it's like you like you said, it's in that show it gets cliche, but then and then especially then because Star Trek's not about, like you said, maybe an episode or two having that cloak and dagger kind of feel fine.
Yeah, because I
But-
think Deep Space Nine had some of those ones. You know, there were some interesting ones. I think that's why a lot of people like Deep Space Nine. I didn't really like Deep Space Nine growing up. I enjoyed it a lot more rewatching it in my late 20s. I enjoyed
Right.
Deep Space Nine a lot more, and I think that the characters were actually pretty good characters. And actually, you know, considering that they at that time you had it coming right off Next Generation, and then you had, and they might have all. I don't think Voyager and Deep Space. I don't think Voyager and TNG ever ran at the same time. I'd have to look, but those were, you know, but the beginning and end of those shows all did happen around the same time, and then Deep Space Nine and Voyager was happening simultaneously. So, you know,
I think TNG was like right at its end.
Yeah,
like
because
maybe a
Worf
season or
moves
two
over.
away from it, and then
yeah, something like that. But that's the thing is, you have, you know, we had two Star Treks. We had the Voyager style, and then we had Deep Space Nine style. And I don't mind the idea that they were doing a single story with Picard. And there's a lot of things that it could have been done well. The problem is they didn't plan the story out. They didn't give thought to what they were tweaking the universe, because a lot of the tweaks break the universe, or it breaks the logic and the space of it. It takes away from the characters. It pulls away from the things. You know, there's things that you're like, wait, they would never do that. But even if they, like I said, they did, why would you trust that they're just going to, Roman's just going to straight up leave after destroying wanting to destroy this planet? There's so many things that they allow to happen that would never be strategically allowed to happen inside the space.
right.
And again, the characters are, you know, I look at the story, and we'll do some of the stuff in our full breakdown, which we'll wrap it up here. We're at 40 minutes. So thank you all for joining us. But you know, there's things where, like, you look at the storylines. This should have been like a 4-part episode, in all reality type thing. This is like a, you know, in TNG time, this is probably 3 or 4 episodes, because there's a lot of subplots that don't need to be there. Everything from Raffi's son to the whole like drug planet, you know, the casino planet. It's just like the casino. Quit adding casino
I totally
episodes.
forgot about that.
We don't need the casino episodes. You have these like casino episode. You have, you know, you have to get get Legolas, you know, Elrond Jr., you know, to get our elves on the ship. You know, we had 2 Romulans that were very capable, you know, Romulan operatives. They should have been on the ship. The crew should have been Picard, the 2 Romulan caretakers. I don't think Raffi. She's just so bad. If she didn't done well, she could have been fine. So we'll just say her done well. Rios and
I wouldn't
guess
have 7. I wouldn't have 7. 7's character is not important.
yeah, she's not
important
really
to me.
needed, because the Borg aren't even important in the story. The Borg
No,
aren't
exactly.
even
They
important.
tried. I thought the Borg were going to be important, and then I was like, well, at least there might be an understanding for 7. But
They didn't
it was
even have
all-
a battle with
it
the
was-
cube. They didn't even do a Borg.
Yeah.
They didn't even do the Borg battle here in this final scene where they're like, oh, wait, you didn't even bring. I was expecting her to bring the cube up and do some extra. Like I said, imagine if there was only 10
Or even just
Federation ships.
like self-destruct the sucker, like just find it right in the Romulan fleet and just, hey, I'm gonna
Yeah,
beam out and I'm gonna
that
set
could
that
be your-
sucker up. It's a massive Borg cube. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like it's just gonna go boof.
Yeah,
that explosion
that could
is
damage the
probably
planet.
massive.
You probably wouldn't want that to do either. Damage the
Oh,
planet.
okay, well, I
but
guess that's true.
but the thing is, though, if you had, like I said, 10 Federation ships arriving, because that was what was sent, and then you have that level of scope, and then you pop a Borg cube into it, you start to have a little more of a defense against it, right?
And that would have been a kind of cool looking scene. Like, is it a handful of Federation ships and there's just a massive Borg cube sitting behind it with the
Right.
Romulans? It would have been a weird thought, because you're going, that's just usually not used to seeing Federation and Borg cube in the same space as allies. So interesting. And yeah, just sitting there going like, oh, okay, this is something interesting to look at. Instead, you have, you know, mirror images of blue and green, pretty much, you know, gray, blue, red on one side and green, gray on the other side.
Yeah,
Like
and you know what?
I told Fox on there that I said, you know, it's maybe a good thing they didn't have a laser battle, viewers, because then all it would have looked like is Christmas Day between red lights and green lights just shooting across the screen going.
and it's already too transformery as it is with the noise. The problem is Star Trek. Generally, there's obviously exceptions, but you look at the difference of the space battle of First Contact. Star Trek fights are very different than like Star Wars. Star Wars is very much modeled after World War II dogfights. Right. Star Trek is much more modeled after
naval battles.
A little bit a three-dimensional naval battle. I would say. Yeah. There's an anime show I've told you I had trying to have Philip watch, but Star Blazers, $21.99. I think $21.99. But Star Blazers, I think I told you to watch that too. So it's really good. Mm-hmm. But that's based off more of like submarine / battleship warfare. And so I would say yes, it falls more into this scope versus the dogfight, right? Because we don't send shuttles out. We don't send out smaller fighters. It's one of the big distinctions between Star Trek and Star Wars is Star Wars is very little. You send out the little ships. They're like little wasps, and the Federation is much more cruisers and battleships against battleships. You're not fighting little things. So actually, that's a good distinction because I don't think we even have an aircraft carrier equivalent where we're like, oh, we're going to send out little ships to do it. Even in Voyager,
I don't think there's ever been anything like that in Star Trek.
Yeah, the closest thing would be like one like the Prometheus that can split the two different hulls and or three different ships and attack. Yeah, three different ships and attack from different angles.
The multi-vector attack.
Multi-vector attack mode. Yeah. Yeah. I think EMH the doctor, he's like command ECH. He's like multi-vector attack mode.
That's a different episode. Is
that a dream though? Doesn't he dream that? Does he have a dream when he does it or something like that? I swear he has one dream mode.
He has a dream where he has a one. I think it is actually called Tinker Tailor Dr. Spy is that episode where he has the dream about doing all that stuff. But there is an episode where I forget where it is where something's happening and the crew has to be like, I forget if they have to be like under or they're taken over by something, and he does get the command protocols, and I love it because he switches from being like the little blue suit, and then
he gets taken over by
reinitializes the red with all the 4 pips, and he's like, I'm the command EMH.
Actually, it's a pretty good episode.
Exactly where they probably actually got the whole jokes for all the Rios things from that.
Yeah, it's probably based on stuff like that a little bit. Well, the whole command, type stuff. So
like having a different versions of EMHs. Yeah.
But I think the biggest takeaway on this stuff is bigger isn't always better. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the problems with New Trek is it goes for bigger versus smarter.
Well, and this was something that, I already talked to you at Fox, as I just said, like, I would have much rather have seen, like you said, 10 ships close up or just a few of the ships closer up. And then even if you want to have still a bigger fleet, then pull out to the scene after, again, there should have been an establishing shot of seeing a few of the ships at least closer up. Because again, too, for both just sense of like I said, getting an establishing shot, but also it's a Star Trek show, and it's not a good Star Trek show unless you get the obligatory, pass of one of the great ships just getting to pass by with the lights on. It's like my favorite scene will always be from a Star Trek movie is in Wrath of Khan, though, and I know the first movie does it too, but it's the Wrath of Khan when he takes the ship out of dry dock and they turn on the lights and everything slowly turns on and they show everything and they pull out of the space dock. And it's like 2.5 minutes, but you just get to see every shot of the ship from every different little angle, and you get to enjoy it. And then you get to something like this, and you're saying this is a new ship, and you don't even get one.
Are you thinking Wrath of Khan?
One good establishing.
Oh, you're talking the.
Yeah, I think it's Wrath of Khan.
No, I think
I know they also do it in. I know they also do it in the motion picture, but I think Wrath of Khan also has.
I know it has a good shot. I know the visual effects in Wrath of Khan are spectacular.
Are spectacular.
The model work in that one, I'd say, is probably one of the best looking. Like, there's something like physical about it.
That fight really holds up today. I mean, those space battles hold up to because like you said, it's beautiful models and just shot so well.
Yeah, they did a good job. So,
and then get, like I said, and then 40 years, 50 years later, I'm seeing this, and I can't even get one good one good shot of the new Federation ship. Like, there was not one good shot of that ship. Seeing it by itself, and you know why? Whole thing.
Because it's so low. Like I said, it's ugly.
Well, yeah, it's low budget BS CG crap. I mean, it's like, gosh.
Well, and again, it doesn't have to be super expensive. But you look at, like I said, how beautiful this ship is. How smooth it is, the angles on it, and then like I said, you go to these other ships, and they pull these up, and you're just like, I don't know why they're so angly. This whole thing, you look at like these bizarre connectors on the Enterprise are small, but these are how this really like. I don't know.
It reminds me a lot of the NX-01 style Enterprise.
Yes, I can see that.
It's actually what it really. That's what it really reminds me of, is that kind of style. And they said, and then they kind of brought it forward. Which, here's the thing, like I said, I actually really enjoy the look of the NX-01. For them being the first version,
it's okay.
It's like,
I don't love it or hate it.
It's like, I actually like it, but a lot of the elements of this, because it has this kind of the same like little divot in the front instead of being the full rounded. Like I think that's like one of the front shots you see of the ship. It is kind of like that little divot inward, which is like kind of like similar to the NX-01. But I think they went mostly for kind of like a newer version of the NX-01, almost in a sense. It was kind of their design elements.
And let me tell you something. I'll tell you. Let me tell you what.
Let me learn you something, child.
I will say the one thing that's so, I don't hate lens flares. I know he'll hate them, but these lens flares look so bad. If you look at this stills, when you actually look at the still shots, they just randomly put like a lens flare on that bottom left like thing. They put like an edge of a lens flare over here. They like just randomly add these.
And it makes it look really odd. Like if you're talking about that one on the left that's just got the straight, is that what you're talking? Like that one that's just got the blue right there. It makes it. Then it doesn't even make it look like it's and they flush with the nacelle. It makes it look like a random angle.
And they also put it higher up too. You look on the other glowy part, so you go straight above at like 1 o'clock. There's another little lens flare that's just randomly there. And what lens flares are is when direct light hits a lens. They aren't a thing you see in nature that I'm aware of. But they're not something that's there. They're when there's a camera thing, and sometimes they look really cool. I don't have a problem with them. Yes, JJ and company goes a little over top. But I think here again they do go over top, because like I said I was trying to find a shot later on with the ship. My
problem is always when it just when it blinds you from then seeing the actual set and it scenes itself. It's like why are you blinding my field of vision? Yeah, it's like because then everything else starts getting less.
And I think when things get bright, clean. It's okay. But it's just because it glows can be okay, but they just do. Like I said, you just start when you like if you. You
start being blinded by it. You start wincing at the screen because you're like, ooh, instead of being able to kind of enjoy what you're actually looking at. And
like this one actually is good. See, this shot's clean.
Yeah, that's really nice. Yeah.
I mean, it's really noisy. It's a busy. Noisy shot visually, but it's. I don't have see everything cleanly. I don't have lens flares blowing my eyes up. And again, you said, like here again, clean shot. So I think they're trying to. I think that must have been a reshoot. If I had to guess, that was a late ad. I'd have to guess, because the Romulan ships have way more polygons on them, and those Federation ships are very low poly. So I don't know if you know that in the sense of modeling, like it's essentially low detail. It's just a way of saying that, and like.
Well, do you almost wonder if the more the original take there was supposed to be the Borg cube?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't see where it fit. Like I said, the problem is I don't see. There's a lot of elements that don't fit in this, and I don't know where that would fit. The cube, like the sense the cube, other than the cube joining them attack, but they're not attacking. They don't really deal with the cube. They kind of forget the cube's down there. Other than the cube, they put the cube as that girl attacking them. I don't.
Well, that's why I almost wonder, like you said, instead of like originally them having like maybe it was, one ship, just Riker ship, and then the Borg cube was kind of. That would have been better. Down in orbit too, and then instead they went, you know what, we really don't want to bring that ship, and then they just copy and pasted Riker's ship and put it 200 times.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting theory. I can't. It's one of those ones where
I don't know. It's just like you said with the cuts and the way that they did go through it, and the fact that it's like you said, because they were making this big old deal, like we're repairing the Borg cube. It's being repaired from the green replicators, and you're going okay, but then you never use it. Like you said, the only time you ever see it is them fighting in it, and her trying to do something. The evil Romulan chick.
Yeah, like you said, I think she was trying to target them from the Borg.
I think she was trying to target the La Sirena or whatever it was.
Yeah, but any final thoughts from you? Because I'm pretty much wrapped up myself here.
Like you said, I wish like you said, it's not that I wanted there to be a space battle, especially because I don't think that these writers have the strategic acumen to have created a good battle. clearly, from what you can see, would have been like straight volleys, like you said, old school Revolution. Just typical take your shot, fire free for all kind of thing. Instead of there being anything worthwhile to see. But that being said, like you said, with what the buildup was, what's happening in the world, there should have been some kind of confrontation, or it simply should have been this more than anything. Even if the Romulan ships were going to kind of turn around and say something, at least Riker would have been saying, "Oh, but you, Commodore, you're staying." At which point would have been a sticking point for a lot of people, and then the Romulans would have been like, "No, we're not." And then that kind of being then something going like, "Well, either you can fight us, but I'm not going with you." Or something else, or at that point, then
that's I think there was
like
not
that.
addressing it.
That would have been where the conflict would have taken place.
Again,
is him saying you need to stay though,
and that's
like
the
you definitely need to stay, and her going I'm not staying, and him going, well, we're gonna make you.
And that's the in and out of universe explanation problem, where I'm like, in universe, there's some validity to you not wanting to fight, but out of again, too many Federation ships, and all those elements. So I think we're going to wrap up this one. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to do a final Picard breakdown of season 1 with all three of us here. Just talk at the season in general, give us some plot points, some thoughts. We won't make that one too long. It'll just kind of be a fast one, to be honest, because we've nailed this series to the ground. I mean, it's pretty rough. So we've put down most of the things you can say about it. Thank you for joining us. We'll have some more content. Oh, go ahead. I
was gonna say the amount of detail they put into these last ships is about is a great comparison of how much detail they put into this show, just in general. It's like they couldn't go deeper, they couldn't make it better, they couldn't design more than one ship.
So if you want to watch some good Star Trek, go watch First Contact. Have a good day.
Yes.